might imagine a jar filled with water and sand, and you shake up the jar and the sand swirling all over the place. That is your mind. That sand swirling around, and you have to give it a chance to settle. So when you set the jar down, the sand settles. And then when you look through it, it's clear. And we want clear minds as leaders, because what happens when you have a clear mind is you make better decisions. And when you make better decisions, you get wherever it is you're going so much faster.
Welcome to the New Talent Playbook Podcast, your go-to resource for building exceptional teams and thriving businesses. Each episode delivers actionable insights on harnessing offshore talent, integrating innovative technology, cultivating a vibrant company culture, and attracting and retaining top performers. Subscribe now to never miss an episode. For more resources, visit the newtalentplaybookpodcast.com, where you can download this episode's free workbook designed to help you apply today's insight to your business. And now, here's your host, Rob Levin.
Today, I'm joined by Rob Dube, who built and sold a company recognized by Forbes and Inc. for its people-first culture, and now he's teaching other entrepreneurs how to do the same. As the visionary behind the 10 Disciplines coaching program, Rob helps leaders who have mastered the outer game of business find peace and focus in their inner game. A longtime meditator and award-winning servant leader, Rob has led retreats in the Colorado Rockies, delivered a TEDx talk, and has spoken at companies such as PayPal and Ford. His approach is about leading with clarity so your business and your life both thrive. He's also the co-author of Shine, a book that outlines 10 powerful disciplines to help leaders create more freedom, energy, and clarity in work and life. Rob, welcome to the show. It's great to see you, and let's dive right in.
Thanks so much, Rob. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm happy to see you today.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. You work with leaders who are trying to master the outer game of business, but still feel like something's missing. Why is the inner side of leadership, and maybe you can even tell us what the inner side is, and why is the inner side of leadership becoming so critical today?
I think it's always been critical, but maybe we just haven't had enough awareness about it. Because as high performers, we have something special that many don't have. And that's the ability to make things happen, to see things that other people can't see, to have lots of ideas on how we can maybe change the world in small and big ways. And so that's such a gift. And like I said, not a lot of people have that gift. Now, the issue is that we don't understand that everybody doesn't have that gift. So when we see something clearly, we expect everyone else to see it clearly as well. And that's just not the case. So what ends up happening is we can easily leave a black trail behind us. And that affects our employees and the people around us in our personal lives, our loved ones, our friends. And we don't want to do that. So it's important for us to recognize where that's all coming from so we can manage it. This is a deeper sense of self-awareness. This isn't about a trait that you have where you say, oh, I talk a lot, so I need to not talk so much. No, this is about going deeper inside to understand why you're doing the things that you're doing, your actions, each and every day, each and every moment.
That's really powerful. And I just want to share a personal story, because what you're saying was something I realized maybe 7 or 8 years ago. I remember seeing Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach speak and talking about unique ability. And your unique ability is that intersection of what you do uniquely very well and that you enjoy doing, and that adds a lot of value to whatever it is that you're doing. And then he said something really powerful. He said, most of us don't realize that we are uniquely good at that thing. We think everybody can do that thing. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. This changes so much. It's really powerful. Thanks for bringing that out to our audience.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So Rob, continuing this discussion, you've said that decisions are made from love or fear. How does that show up when leaders are doing their thing? They're hiring, building culture, letting people go, running their company.
Well, when you're making decisions from fear, they're usually not aligned with your true self. And when you're making them from love, they are. Examples, you mentioned hiring, and I know that's an important part of your business. So how many times, and I'm guilty, how many times have we interviewed somebody, they have all the right skills? It's so exciting. You just feel like they're going to help you go to a whole nother level. But there's some things that something inside of you is telling, like, something's not right here, but you tend to overlook it because fear is driving that decision. Now, if love drives it, it's a lot easier because you say, look, I know they have all the skills and I know they could probably make a great impact, but there's something about them that doesn't fit. Maybe it's a value situation. Maybe it's just something you can't even put your finger on, but it's a deep knowing and having the confidence to pass and keep looking. And so that's an example of where you might be making a decision from fear versus love. Terminating people is another big one. A lot of times, I hear this all the time, people saying, I don't have the right COO in place, I don't have the right CFO, and they're making these mistakes, and they're doing this, and they're doing that. And I listen to them tell their whole thing, and I say, well, what's the problem? And usually they'll say, yeah, they're just not stepping up. They're just not doing what needs to be done. I say, no, you're the problem. You're living in a fear-based world right now. You need to make a change. And that's a hard thing to do. That actually comes from love. If you care about the rest of your team and you have a person on your leadership team who isn't performing, you need to make a change and do it with compassion, but you need to make a change. But fear is holding you back.
Again, something else that's really powerful. What's the first step for somebody to figure out their inner side?
Everybody's on their own path. I don't have a formula for that, and there shouldn't be one. We have these 10 disciplines that we write about in Shine, and discipline number 3 is know thyself. And so some of the, dip your toe in the water ideas are, most of your audience have probably already done this, but you can do personality profiles, help start at a surface, kind of get to understand your strengths and your weaknesses. If you want to be a little bit more vulnerable, you could send an email to 5 or 10 of the people that are closest to you in your life and ask them if you're humble, or have them rate you on a scale of humble on the far right, not humble on the far left, and just put a slash mark somewhere on that line. I've had people do that, and that's a scary exercise to do, and they've received feedback that they were surprised about, and meaning they were not humble and they thought they were. Those are a couple of things you could do. Obviously, these days, therapy. Many people go to therapy. It's very well known. There's no shame in it anymore. It used to be when I was young, but that's a very simple thing. And then you could go even deeper. And there's a million things that you could do, but just stay on the journey, be curious, pay attention, notice what's pinging you. If somebody says something to you about an experience they have and it kind of hits you in the right way, investigate it, get curious about it. Maybe that's something you should investigate or go and do for yourself.
Yeah. For the audience, Rob and I met, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. We were in a business group together. You were a member like everybody else, but I was listening to a lot of the things you were saying, and it really got me to think about understanding myself so that I could run my business and actually live my life in alignment. And to say that that's powerful is actually an understatement. And actually, it's a good segue to my next question, because you kind of got me on this path as well. If a leader practices mindfulness, how does that improve their leadership ability?
When you have the awareness to pause in that moment of stimulus and response, in that moment, it's a millisecond, you get to make a choice. And it's always best to choose coming from love versus coming from fear. Fear-based responses are not well thought out. Again, well thought out doesn't mean you have to spend 5 minutes thinking about an answer. It's a millisecond, but it's an inherent knowing that the way you respond is going to have an impact on this person that you're speaking with. These are just examples of how mindfulness could show up. You know, I've had a meditation practice for over 20 years and I teach meditation, and that's been useful for me. I don't know that to be useful for all people. Everybody needs to find their thing, but whatever it is, it's important to find moments of stillness throughout your day. You might imagine a jar filled with water and sand, and you shake up the jar and the sand swirling all over the place. That is your mind. Especially high performers like you and the people that listen to your podcast, they are busy people with a lot of balls in the air. And so that sand swirling around, and you have to give it a chance to settle. So when you set the jar down for just a few minutes, the sand settles. And then when you look through it, it's clear. And we want clear minds as leaders, as high performers. Because what happens when you have a clear mind is you make better decisions. And when you make better decisions, you get wherever it is you're going so much faster. So it's a no-brainer.
Are you ready to rethink how you hire and retain top talent? Then you need to get your hands on my upcoming book, The New Talent Playbook, the ultimate guide to building your dream team. When you sign up for this book launch updates, you'll also get a free copy of the Culture Strength Scorecard, a tool that will immediately help you diagnose your team's health. This is your new playbook for winning the war for talent and scaling with total confidence. Get your free scorecard and be the first to get the book at thenewtalentplaybook.com. Rob, you mentioned one of the 10 disciplines, and in general, the 10 disciplines help leaders simplify and focus. What shifts do leaders have? What do they see in their teams once they commit to the 10 disciplines?
Once you start incorporating the 10 disciplines into your life, you get clarity. So it's coming back to what we were just talking about. It's again, just to reinforce it, that when you have clarity, you just make better decisions. And when you make better decisions, you get to wherever you want to go faster, and you do it in alignment with your true self, who you really are at the core. So it's a beautiful thing when you get clear about things like where you want to be in 10 years, and why you're doing the things that you're doing. When you're nurturing yourself by taking the appropriate amount of time off and recharging and refreshing, meaning just staying fully away from work, not checking emails, not reading business books, not doing all the normal things that occupy your mind. That's sort of the point of recharging yourself.
Yeah.
So these are some of the habits. When you're really clear, you say no often. When you're a high performer and you're doing well, you have a lot of opportunities coming at you each and every day. And certainly it's your ability to discern of all those opportunities, of which they're all really good. I can't do them all because time is limited, so I have to make choices. And most of them should be no. And then being able to pick the select few that are yeses, that catapults you forward and brings you whatever it is, your successes or the peace that you're looking for in your life.
Yeah, the word that just comes to mind is intention, which it's very powerful.
Yeah.
It's something I never thought about until the past few years.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Rob, business owners, we're known for hustling. We can get it done. We have broad shoulders. We can get it through everything. And it's, to some extent, it's glamorized. What's the cost of that mindset, and what's the alternative? Without, to that end, can you still accomplish your goals as quickly?
Well, the first part is about hustle. I think each person really has to take time and do a deep look into themselves and ask themselves what they're doing and why they're doing it. Are the sacrifices they're making worth whatever potential outcome they're looking for? And just where that's coming from deep down for a person. So let's just pretend for a second, hypothetically, somebody's really driven by money, and they're hustling and they're hustling and they're hustling, and their relationships are constantly compromised. They don't have close friends, but they're becoming very successful in business. It's classic, by the way. They're getting divorced. People get divorced. I'm not criticizing that, but sometimes there's a reason these things happen, and it's because they're hustling, they're driving, they're going hard all the time. They're making a ton of money. Nothing wrong with that. I'm all for that. Again, you have to understand what the cost is. And so then one day they wake up and they say, why aren't I happy? What's going on? I have everything I could ever imagine. I'm still not happy. That's not necessary. You don't have to put yourself through that. It is glamorized. I think nowadays you see people and they're going hard and they tell you that's their formula. And that might be their formula. Some people are driven by money because growing up they didn't have any and they're so scared to ever be in that position again. And there's never enough for them to be able to say, I'm good. I'm actually good right now. And so they just keep going for that reasons. Other people, they need that dopamine hit. They need that constant recognition that they're bigger and better. All these things come from deeper wounds from when one was younger or something along those lines. So it's important to know thyself when it comes to that. Really ask yourself those hard questions, and it takes pausing. Because like we talked about earlier, you're leaving a black trail behind yourself, and that's not what you want. Life is full in so many ways, not just one. And so experience all of it, the relationships, the nature, the beauty of this world, and being able to make a difference in your business. And guess what? If you keep it all aligned, I truly believe, you asked me if it's possible, I think you asked it a different way, but can you still be successful? My belief is yes, and maybe even more so, and on many fronts, not just money.
My personal journey has been very much in alignment with what you're saying, and it's just game changing and it's so powerful. Rob, if somebody listening wants to take one first step in building inner peace and building a stronger company culture, and company culture is probably the number one topic that comes up on this podcast, where should they start?
I'll answer two ways. We're all on a personal journey, and that personal journey translates into how we lead our businesses. So I will do a shameless plug for the book Shine, because I do think we've done a very good job at outlining how you can build a strong foundation, and then how you, once that foundation's in place, how you can do the deeper work that can lead you to be a better leader, which ultimately leads you to having a stronger culture. There are wonderful organizations out there that help from an inspirational standpoint, a best practices standpoint. Two that I'm very familiar with are the Small Giants community and the Tugboat Institute. So those are a couple things, but I know there are many more. I think I love that that's a topic, by the way, that you're hearing frequently about culture, because as leaders, we have this unique opportunity we've been given in our lives to make an impact on people. And when we are intentional, another word you used earlier, about how we build our cultures and caring, as Small Giants community says in the book Small Giants, caring for the totality of your team members' lives, your employees' lives, that's a wonderful thing to do. If that's not success, I don't know what is, but all the other stuff will follow behind. That will lead.
I couldn't agree anymore. I found this myself. In fact, when I speak, I often talk about some of my previous companies where I didn't focus on culture, and Work Better Now, where we said we're going to focus on culture from day one. And not only more enjoyable and bigger impact, but the results speak for themselves as well. It's mind blowing. And in terms of the difference, awesome. And just again, so much happier.
Of course. Yeah. Think about your energy when you surround yourself with people that have great energy. So if you're around happy people, there's a good chance you're going to be happier. And if you're happy, there's a good chance they're going to be happier. Conversely, if you're around people that are not so happy, it's going to bring your energy down. It's just the way it works. I like your way of doing it.
Again, I got a lot of that from spending time with you. Rob, thanks so much for this. Thanks for sharing your insights. Where can people find out more about you and the 10 disciplines as well as Shine?
Thank you for asking. So 2 places. You could go to the10disciplines.com, and you can spell 10 or you can use the number. And you can also go to robdube.com and find everything that I'm up to, which includes the 10 disciplines.
Fantastic. Rob, great to see you, and thanks again.
Great to see you.
Thanks for listening. The New Talent Playbook podcast is brought to you by Work Better Now. Don't forget to review, subscribe, and download the workbook for this episode at the link below. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on LinkedIn at the New Talent Playbook Podcast or visit thenewtalentplaybookpodcast.com.